Welcome back. So we have learned how to make a simple vanilla cake recipe. Now let's learn how to make a simple chocolate cake recipe and add that to your toolbox. So for this recipe, we are going to need 400 grams of sugar, granulated sugar, 300 grams of all-purpose flour, 75 grams of cocoa powder. I use Hershey's cocoa powder. A tablespoon and a half of baking powder, a tablespoon and a half of baking soda, and a tablespoon of sea salt. And that makes our dry ingredients. And for our wet ingredients, we are going to need a cup, 240 mLs of buttermilk, a cup, 240 mLs of warm water, 2 whole eggs, half a cup of oil, 120 mLs of canola oil, and of course, there is no recipe without vanilla. We are using 2 tablespoons of vanilla extract. So that makes our wet ingredients. Now I'm going to combine all our dry ingredients and then add our wet. So let's get to it. So first things first, we're going to sift our dry ingredients into our mixing bowl. I'm going to pour in my flour. I usually don't sift my sugar. I just pour it right in. And I'm going to sift my baking powder, baking soda, and salt. Then we're going to add in our cocoa powder. Using my paddle attachment, I'm going to mix my dry ingredients together. Now my dry ingredients are nicely combined, so I'm going to combine my wet ingredients. So I'm going to add my oil to my buttermilk, vanilla, my whole eggs, give it a good stir. Now I have my hot water. So it is right out of the microwave. It is hot, but not boiling hot. I'm going to add to it some instant coffee. I usually do 1 tablespoon of coffee per batch. And I'm going to pour all my wet ingredients into the dry ingredients. I add the milk first, stir, then I add the hot water and coffee. I'll stop it midway and give it a good stir so I can get to the bottom of the bowl. Once it is completely incorporated, you stop. And our batter is ready. Now it's all ready to be placed in our pans. Look at it, nice, smooth, and chocolatey. So my pan is ready. I have prepared my pan with homemade pan release. This recipe is one of my very moist recipes. And for that reason, I do not want it to stick to the bottom of the pan. I will place parchment paper at the bottom of the pan. Or if you have saved your butter wrappers, then you use your butter wrapper at the bottom of the pan. Here I have my pan nicely greased with pan release, and I'm going to place a butter wrapper at the bottom to make sure my very moist cake does not stick to the bottom of my pan. So I have here a butter wrapper. I'm going to place the printed side down. Whatever way you fill your pan is left to you. There is no right or wrong way to do it. Find a method that works for you and that is efficient and gives you consistent cake layers every single time. You could weigh it, you could use a spoon. However way you do it, pick the right one for you. Now we're going to bake this at 350. So while we wait for our cake to bake, let's talk about what do you do with your extra cake batter? Do you bake it and sell it? Do you bake it, leave it around the house for the kids and yourself to enjoy? Or do you bake it and store the cake layers in the freezer for later use? So this is what I like to do with my extra batter. If I have an order with the same flavor coming up very soon, I will go ahead and bake the layers and save them in the freezer until I'm ready to use them. But if I know I don't have a cake order in that flavor coming up anytime soon, I would rather save my batter in a freezer bag in the freezer. You can keep your batter in the freezer for as long as 3 months. So I have some extra batter here, so let me show you how I save it. So I get a freezer bag big enough for the batter I have. I buy this freezer bag at the Restaurant Depot. They come in gallon, 2-gallon bags. So they come in bulk, large quantities, so you can save them and use them for later. And I just pour my extra batter in. Seal it off nicely. And label it with the name and the date. Labeled and dated. So now it's ready for the freezer. Once I'm ready to use it, I get it out of the freezer, place it in the fridge for it to thaw, and I'll bring it out to room temperature and scoop it into my pans. Easy peasy. This method of freezing your batter works perfectly well when you have a very busy week or a very busy weekend. So what I like to do is I plan ahead. I will make all my batters ahead of time, store them in freezer bags, and freeze them until I'm ready to bake them. So that makes it very efficient for me and eliminates the step of trying to mix all my batters and bake them all at the same time. The oven is calling. Our chocolate cake is ready. Now we're going to wait for it to cool. Be right back. It's been 10 minutes. Our cake has cooled. And now let's unmold it. I'm going to remove our parchment paper. Let's cut into it. Still a little warm, which isn't perfect. Let's get into the, check this out. Let's get into the texture, the crumb. Divine.
This is quality control. This is good. Thank you for joining me. I hope you'll be able to use this in your business or just bake a cake for your family. It's delicious. I'll see you in our next lesson.